Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I have a little bit of a quandary. Something I've been thinking about for a while, especially when it comes to WTF Is, right? It's a series that's been going on for years and has done very well for me, and it has excellent reception really across the board. It's my most popular series. And every now and again, of course, I end up doing a WTF Is of a game that's really, really bad. And I always hear the same piece of feedback. It's usually a vocal minority. In fact, it's a very vocal minority, but I always get the same piece of feedback. It's like, well, this space could have been better spent on something else. And that's always a weird one for me, because I feel that critique is supposed to cover all titles. It's not a recommendation series at all, is it? No, absolutely not. It's a series that looks at stuff that comes on Steam and tells you whether or not it's worth buying. It's really that simple. Nothing more complicated than that. But I wonder if it's got to the point where those games that are featured at least should have some redeeming factor, and games that don't should perhaps be relegated to something else. I don't know yet. I'd love to hear your feedback on that, so feel free to let me know via Facebook, Twitter, and of course via the subreddit. And we'll see what comes of it. But I do have this sort of mini-series that's very irregular called Let's Not Play. I've done 2 episodes of it so far, one on Need for Speed Rivals, which I said don't play because it's fundamentally broken at its core as a PC title, and then the other one, which was Guys the Wolf. It's a goddamn disaster of a game. That should give you an impression of what I feel about Deus Ex The Fall. This started as a very controversial title in and of itself, because it was announced as the next part of the Deus Ex franchise, a prequel to Human Revolution, with very, very valid story connections to the illustrious title. And yet, it was announced as an iOS game, and then subsequently ported to Android. This got a lot of people very riled up, because of course Deus Ex is, at its core, a hardcore game. It has a deep storied history. It's considered to be one of the best PC games of all time. And of course its sequel was a damn disaster and we don't talk about it, but Human Revolution was considered a phenomenal return to form by most people. Not everybody, but most. In terms of reviving a game that had a classic original and a very poor sequel, Deus Ex Human Revolution turned out about as well as anyone could have possibly expected, and perhaps blew the wildest dreams away of many others. But then we got The Fall, and eventually The Fall actually made its way to PC. Now I have to admit, I love Deus Ex. Deus Ex is one of my favorite games of all time. Invisible War was a damn disaster, but I still beat it twice, because I was just desperate for that Deus Ex experience one more time. Didn't really give it to me, but hey, I tried. And then of course Human Revolution comes along, and it's pretty much what I want from a Deus Ex game, and I'm happy with that. The Fall... well, this is a game I consider to be worse than Deus Ex 2. And that game was pretty bad. Why is this one bad? Well, I was holding out hope, perhaps, that this port might be a proper one, that they take the content and maybe, as unrealistic as it sounds, use the original Human Revolution engine. And really use those assets and polish the quality up and take the content from The Fall and translate it to the PC, utilizing the Human Revolution engine and the way that the combat worked and the stealth and just everything about it. Did they? Well, of course not. Like I said, that was a foolhardy assumption that they would do something like that. No. So The Fall ran in the Unity engine, and it still does, but they seem to have forgotten about the options that are available in the Unity engine, as do so many other developers, but those developers maybe have an excuse in the fact that they're perhaps students or small indie teams, not Eidos Montreal. Now, I've got to admit that they were teamed up with N-Fusion, who haven't really done too much, at least nothing on the good side of things. This is the game that they've praised as kind of their most award-winning, and I think that should be an extreme demonstration of the quality you can expect from mobile platforms. Oh god, let's have a look at this. So, not much here, is there? Nope, not really. Do have autosave on and off. There's a single save slot. Single save slot only. Rebindable keys? No. Not at all. You should be fortunate Ladies and gentlemen, this is merely not a touch-compatible game. You should consider yourself lucky. The key binding is a goddamn mess. Even using things like the function keys and all manner of different things. There's a lot of stuff wrong with the UI, and it's not immediately evident upon looking at this, although this is pretty much a mess anyway. Yes, it's not good. So no key rebinding. Also, mouse sensitivity. This looks normal, right? Well, once I get into the game, I'll demonstrate why it isn't. Why there's a horrible, horrible amount of mouse acceleration problems. These are the video options. Really? This is all you can come up with? Full screen on or off? Resolution? An AA filter and then VSync? That's it? Nothing else? Well, it should again be indicative of the quality that you can expect. If we head over to audio, you'll see at least they've got that sorted out. So that works the way it's supposed to. Not a good port from the start, is it? Well, it gets a hell of a lot worse than that. Now, since this isn't WTF's format, we can kind of jump around a little bit. I'm going to show you a bit of the main gameplay, and then I'm going to show you the abomination that is the tutorial. Really, really terrible tutorial that I think is going to upset people that like the original Deus Ex games, and I'll explain why, of course, as I go in as someone that absolutely adored the original Deus Ex. This will be an interesting comparison, I suppose, because I'm someone that liked the new Thief and a lot of people didn't, but I think to compare The Fall to Thief would be a gross disservice, because Thief is by far a better title than this. Welcome to Deus Ex The Fall. Kinda looks like Deus Ex Human Revolution, doesn't it? Only 8 years older. So, overall texture quality, absolutely bloody terrible. As I think you can see, it looks old, very old, and is anyone really surprised by that? I mean, there shouldn't be. It is a mobile game, but this port came out about a year later, and they had the chance to fix things up. They just simply chose not to. They basically up-resed it, slapped an AA filter over it, and called it an HD port. I disagree. Ladies and gentlemen, I disagree. So, this section right here definitely feels a little bit like a Deus Ex game. You are in the streets, there are various pathways to go down. I guess they didn't bother to texture this car much. Or do anything else to it. The modeling is just bloody awful on that, good lord. You wander around, you find things to unlock and hack, you perhaps sneak through hidden pathways. All sorts of wonderful things like that. You can fight and knock out NPCs if you so desire, get experience, find stuff, and complete some side missions. Even the cover system works in a fairly similar fashion, as you can see, to the previous Deus Ex, although it is a hell of a lot clunkier and way less responsive. Speaking of less responsive, I was talking about the mouse acceleration issues earlier. So, this right here is on maximum mouse sensitivity, and it is all over the place. There are some clear mouse acceleration problems here, and in order to actually get the proper sort of sensitivity and acceleration rate that I want from my mouse, I've got to crank even my mouse settings up to maximum, which I should never have to do. So I've got this on sensitivity 10, and I've got my Logitech G9X on all 3 bars, which is as high as it goes by default. And even then, this is about right, but yeah, the mouse movement is really inconsistent. When you go to the side of cover more often than not, the mouse will actually jerk around for no apparent reason. You saw a little bit of it earlier. But it gets a hell of a lot worse once you start getting into combat. Let me demonstrate. Let's fire my pistol. What the hell is that? Yep. Not very good. And it gets worse. The pistol, and indeed many of the other elements of the game, are extremely unresponsive. By that I mean they ignore certain clicks. It's actually insane when you think about it, that something like that could actually slip through QA. But the game ignores some clicks entirely. I don't know how that happened. I have no idea, but it does. And this, what is with this zoom? I mean, this is their version of recoil, I assume. Really, there isn't much recoil in the game at all outside of the cone of fire. Well, you know, you can land a shot pretty damn accurately every single sodding time, but for some reason, the field of view goes all the way back every time you fire. I have no idea why that is. Really, really confusing stuff. Yeah, so that's a bloody mess. We'll see if we can find... Oh, there we go. There's a shotgun. We can try that out. Should be easy enough to switch over to that. There we go. So we got ourselves a shotty. Let's see what happens with that thing. What?! That is impressively broken. How does that get through QA? Again, how is it even possible that something like that could get through QA? You would certainly notice, one would think. Now, I have not tweaked this game at all. You might think, oh, well, that's happening because you did some kind of .ini FOV hack. Nope. Didn't touch it. Haven't done a damn thing with it. Not at all. That is the default settings. That is what happens. Now, I'm going to buy myself some ammo because as much as the game says that this area, I'm in Panama right now, is full of black market vendors for all my needs. No, apparently it's full of the ability to teleport resources directly into your inventory. Lord knows what it was like on mobile. I would imagine there was probably some microtransactions involved in some of that crap, but you can literally teleport in weapons, guns, pretty much everything out of nowhere. Unbelievably. Absolutely farcical, I have got to say. Ridiculous when you think about it. Man, even when your croucher does that. Yes, corpses do evaporate because, well, iOS can't handle it otherwise. Evaporating corpses. Good lord. Ow. The cover systems are kind of even worse. Not only do you have clipping issues, as I think you probably noticed there, but you can also run into some nasty problems when it comes to actually shooting. Oh, don't worry, they somehow haven't noticed me because they're sodding blind. Yep. No, you wanna maybe... No. Get... You kidding me? Good lord. So, the in-cover shooting is absolutely awful. What happens is, when you click, it will pop out. The only way that you can continue firing is to hold down your gun. Hold down your button so that the gun keeps firing. And that can cause a whole bunch of problems. The main reason is that the main pistol's refire rate is really, really low. So as a result, you can end up getting shot an awful lot. The way that the game seems to be designed to work is kind of like this, and I assume this is vestige of its touchscreen control. Where the hell did he come from? You want to maybe die? Thank you. Took a little bit of work, didn't it? Good lord. Again, I assume this is a vestige of the touchscreen controls, but the way that the game seems to be designed to work is that you pop out, you fire, and then you pop back in. So basically, you click once, and that triggers an animation which takes you out of cover, fires, and then pops you back into cover. So that seems like something that would be designed for touchscreens. And if you try to do it the way that you would on PC, much more kind of rapid response, you wouldn't get it. And it just doesn't work properly. And this ends up happening. There we go. I think you've probably noticed the extremely poor animation quality across the board, at least compared to the original game and any modern PC title. This is not the kind of thing you would ever expect from modern titles. Not at all. I mean, the combat is really, really poor. And funnily enough, the original Deus Ex's combat was poor as well. But that game's also very, very old. And we would expect better. The thing is, we've had better. In the form of Deus Ex Human Revolution that did the combat system a hell of a lot better than this. And this is what happens when you port games from mobile devices. If you don't take the proper time, care, and attention, then the game ends up handling like crap. And this game assuredly handles like crap. It really, really does. It does maintain some of the basic elements of Deus Ex Human Revolution, like the stealth system and the takedown system, for instance. And they work relatively well, for the most part. Takedowns were just canned animations anyway, so there's no reason to believe that they wouldn't work in this environment. You notice the mouse is kind of jumping around here. It just does it randomly for no reason. And I've heard some horror stories as well. Some of the augmentations actually cause you to rubber band and actually walk backwards, which is absurdly buggy. Ridiculously so. But yeah, you know, it's not like they haven't put the takedown system in there, but the gunplay is just awful. No real doubt about that at all. Absolutely dreadful. By no means impressive. Now, what else is wrong with it? Well, Deus Ex 2 was criticized for having very, very small levels with a lot of loading screens. This game suffers from exactly the same thing, and one assumes that is due to the limitations of the platform it was originally placed upon. That, of course, being the iPad and the iPhone. It's understandable, really, that you got small levels, but that's not what we've come to expect from Deus Ex, not with Deus Ex and then Human Revolution, which had fairly large, expansive levels that you could explore. This game has a lot of very, very small levels, a lot of loading screens, and the whole thing feels completely disconnected. The fact that through this building I've had to hit about 4 separate loading screens, it's kind of absurd when you think about it, isn't it? Stabby, stabby. Ah, man. Even the takedown animations don't look anywhere near as good. And some people are going to tell me, hey, well, you should expect it, because it was a mobile game. No. It's on PC now, so it's a PC game. It's really that simple. Oh, yeah. There we go. You wouldn't be happy if you were using a mobile device and you got a poor port to mobile, would you? That you couldn't handle properly? That suffered, that didn't run the way that it was supposed to? You'd be upset. Of course you would be. And you should not expect those that play on PC to accept poor ports just because the originating platform is mobile. That shouldn't be relevant to a PC game. You released a game on PC? It should run like a PC game then. Not a particularly hard concept, really. Not in any way. Not in any way. There we go. Take that, take that. At least the hacking minigame kind of works. That's nice, I suppose. I think we're actually going to lose here, aren't we? Yeah. Got a bit greedy. Never mind. Not too big a deal. At least the hacking minigame still works. One could argue that this is impressive for mobile devices. You'd probably be right. It's an impressive proof of concept for mobile devices. The idea is that, yes, you can do a core game experience on iOS. You can do it on Android as well. You can do it on a mobile device, at least to some degree. But all that Deus Ex The Fall really demonstrates to me is the amount of sacrifice that has to be made in order to make that happen. Smaller levels, terrible controls, poor modifications to the combat system. Not to mention the rather degraded visuals and animation quality on display. As well as even just small things like the fact that their bloody corpses disappear. God, the gunplay feels so unresponsive. It's absolute farce. Are you dead yet? You're dead. Thank you. Good to hear. At least it's not easy. I'll give him credit for that. The AI is deadly accurate. Some people wanted Deus Ex The Fall to come to PC, but I think what they actually wanted was the idea of Deus Ex The Fall being developed as a full PC title. A standalone follow-up, perhaps. Which would have made sense. The missing link was a piece of standalone DLC that was excellent. Really, really good. Yet another loading screen. What a bloody surprise. Shockingly good for what it was. Very, very playable. I think people hoped for that. Especially when they heard about it originally. And then, of course, their hopes were dashed when they saw it was a bloody mobile game. I don't blame them. That's how I feel. As someone that really loves the series. Now, I suppose some people are going to try and make the comparison to the ever so wonderful Thief. And, of course, the previous Thief games. I don't think the crimes that Thief perpetrated, at least according to some of the series' diehard fans, are anywhere close to this. Thief may not be what people were hoping for, but at least it was a high-fidelity, next-generation game. It made changes that I think you can subjectively disagree with, whereas Deus Ex The Fall made changes that are objectively worse. They had to make compromises. compromises to the platform, not compromises to game design philosophy, which is how I would describe a lot of Thief. Those ideas you can disagree with in debate, and I don't think there's necessarily a right answer there, and it's totally fine, of course, to disagree with those notions. But in this case, what you can objectively say is, look at the mess of the combat, and look at what caused it. And your answer is going to be that touchscreen format. Look at how poor the graphical fidelity of this title is. Look at the fact that it doesn't even have a sodding jump button. Why doesn't it have a jump button? Because you can't do that on iOS. Not in a first-person game, your controls are incredibly limited. You're using a touchscreen, so they got rid of the jump button. They put vault points, basically. And it's a funny comparison, I suppose, because they did the same bloody thing in Thief, didn't they? But they did it in Thief for different reasons. Whereas here, they simply did it because it was a controller limitation. Doesn't feel too good, does it? Absolutely not. It only serves to compound the fact that the levels feel very, very closed in. Alright, let's just get the hack on this thing, shall we? There we go. Grab that, grab that. Why not? Nice and easy. Put a stop worm down there. Should be able to get the capture on that as well. And there we go. Nice. That should do the trick. A little bit of extra experience. And in we go. This is sort of the desiccated corpse of a Deus Ex game. Maybe the autopsy of a Deus Ex game. There are definitely some components of it that feel like Deus Ex Human Revolution, but everything feels just stripped down to its bare minimum, and not in a good way. Every now and again you can argue, yeah, actually it's a... You can take a genre and burn it down to its barest essentials and maybe make something new out of that. Yeah, you can do that. But in this case, what you've created is an absolute bloody monster that doesn't work properly. And is a pale shadow of what the other Deus Ex games offered. I'd even recommend, if you can believe it, Invisible War over this. And I hate Invisible War. Like, this is what you gotta understand. I hate Invisible War. It's terrible. It was not even close to being as good as the original. But it's way bloody better than this. Way better. There's all sorts of other bugs, and even you could just, like, criticize the voice acting as well, which is not particularly good at all. Deus Ex is not known for having a storied history of excellent voice acting, not at all, but compared to Human Revolution, it feels extremely low budget. And I'm sorry, I'm not much of a mobile gamer, so I can look at it and say, well, you know, that's an impressive tech demo, but you're trying to sell me a PC game here, and for $10, I can get the missing link. Cheaper, in fact. Most of the time. And it'll be better. Much, much better. The 6 hours of gameplay that I'm getting here are not even close to the level of quality that I would expect from a regular title, let alone a Deus Ex game. If this wasn't a Deus Ex game, I'd still be criticizing it for crap like this. Look at this nonsense. Jeez, I mean, some of the texture level in here is actually kind of original Quake level. I'm specifically pointing to some of the browns that you see around. Not all of it, of course. You know, that would be gross over-exaggeration. But this, I mean, is this... I mean, this doesn't even fit together properly. You can see the tearing right here. Bloody hell. I'm sorry, I love Deus Ex as a series, and I see no redemption in this title. I see nothing of worth here. It's a waste of everybody's time, and... frankly, if they somehow thought that this would be okay to release on PC, then they're sadly mistaken. Extremely mistaken. Why on earth would you believe that? I haven't even showed you the bloody inventory screen, have I? Good lord. This is the inventory screen. Yup. You know those sites that say, like, 37 hottest celebrities and make you skip through a slideshow of 37 pictures? Pretty much like that. What a bloody mess. You then have these quick bars. So you hold down G, it pauses the game and brings up your grenades here. Same with weapons as well. Can't remember what the bloody button is, I never can. There, F brings up your sort of quick items, which can be used. So if I have one of those bars, there we go. And then you select it, and then you hit the F button. It'll actually make it work in the first place. So it doesn't have a proper inventory system like the previous Deus Ex games did. It's just a bit of a mess. And there's one thing I should also mention. The bloody grenades don't work properly. They bounce around all over the place. They're extremely unpredictable. I'm going to buy a couple of pulsar-type grenades here for you. The fact that you can teleport in items is just absurd. What's the point of resource conservation if you just teleport in whatever you bloody need whenever you want it? The whole point of Deus Ex was to scramble around looking for resources half the time. There's nothing of that here. Grenades have a tendency to bounce around the place in an awkward fashion, let me put it. What the hell? Where did he even come from? He's over there, alright. In the tutorial area, I actually had a grenade bounce in just a seemingly random direction. I mean, it was almost like it was out of nowhere. You just see him slide in there? Yeah. Indeed. Well, this is a good time to show you the tutorial, because I think the ultimate insult is the way that it handles teaching you how to play the game. What is a revive pack? I don't even know what that is or why I have it. Good lord. I have no interest in going any further in the game, so I have absolutely no problem in wiping my data for you. I will absolutely do that if I can find out how to get back to the main menu. There we go. So, if we quit to menu, I will try and show you the tutorial. It is a big, big hand holder. That I will tell you for a fact. Reset the story progress. Yes, I'm aware it can't be undone. I imagine that's kind of the point. And we can go in there. We'll skip through the cutscenes and things like that. And I'll show you how they handle the tutorial. This demonstrates all manner of nonsense. You know how I've often said that Deus Ex is... Can we not skip through this either? No, apparently... No, there it is. Okay. Alright. Just not instantly. You know I've said that Deus Ex is kind of the antithesis of the modern military shooter. It's something that throws you into an area and asks you to solve almost the puzzle of the environment. Not this one! Not at all. Yes. Move with the mouse, guys. By the way, it won't let you move until it sends you that tutorial message. And I can't get past him either. There's an invisible wall. Look at this crap. Reminds me of the Battlefield 3 campaign. Yep, follow him in. Follow him in. Won't let me do anything. You remember Liberty Island? You remember that? Yeah. It's rolling in its bloody grave. By the way, you can't fight in this area outside of being in cover. Oh, man. Yes, it's teaching you how to be a first-person shooter, I kid you not. Good lord. So silly. That's how the combat works with the crossbow, by the way. There's no point in even zooming in, you just click and things die. Why even have a scope on the sodding thing? It won't let me fire now, by the way, because the tutorial says I don't need to. Tab to learn more, and then maybe I can get out of this sodding cover. There we go. Good lord. That last bloke was Bradford. Gets worse. You want to know how it shows you how to do stealth? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll enjoy this. Go through the door. Here's how to perform a takedown. We're gonna force you into crouching, and we're not gonna let you get up, because the tutorial says use stealth. No freedom whatsoever. In other games, I could maybe accept that. I'd still think it was a bad tutorial. Absolutely. But I could maybe accept it. In a Deus Ex game? Nope. Not even close. Never has a Deus Ex game done a tutorial like this. Oh yeah, and of course you can't get through the grate without someone opening it for you. Enjoy the invisible walls that are everywhere in here. Maybe you think that I'm just nitpicking with the tutorial, but I think, like, this tutorial actually represents everything that's wrong with this game. And all of the simplification that had to go into it in order to create a mobile title. Yep. More invisible walls. Good lord. All of the problems that this game has stem entirely from the fact that it was a mobile game in the first place. And I suppose we should never expect mobile ports to be any good, should we? I guess it's unreasonable. Yes, it is unreasonable.
A weapon has been...
Bloody hell. Won't even let me use my hotkeys, by the way, until I've gone through the tutorial. There are actually hotkeys for those guns, but can't do it without going through the damn tutorial. Everything wrong with this game is because it was originally developed as a mobile title. That should be a word of warning to anyone that ever considers buying a game that was originally on mobile devices. There are some games where it works. Hero Academy can work perfectly fine on PC. It's a turn-based hex-based strategy game. Absolutely, why not? Yeah, why not? It's actually not hex-based, I'm pretty sure it's square, but never mind. It's a turn-based strategy. That can work on both devices without compromise. A first-person shooter cannot. It absolutely cannot. And as a result, anything that comes from mobile and is one of these more traditional genres is pretty much going to be like this. I think Deus Ex The Fall is one of the worst possible offenders. I don't think there's even a doubt about that. And don't even get me started on that muzzle flash, good lord. Don't think there is even a doubt in my mind that Deus Ex The Fall is one of the worst offenders. Simply because we have such better games to compare it to. And if anyone really wants to enjoy the prelude to the human revolution story, they're forced to go through this absolutely abysmal title. This should never have been brought to PC. It's a cheap cash-in. Yes, my laser goes through wood, of course it does. Are you surprised to see things clipping through other things? Should certainly hope not.
You can utilize cover.
Good lord. Stop with the bloody cutscenes already! Ugh.
Proceed and stay there.
Me oh my. Should never have been brought to PC. It might have been okay on mobile, but I'm sorry. This isn't a bloody mobile. This is not an iPad, this is not an iPhone. It's a PC, and I expect PC games on my PC. If you're gonna be on Steam, if you're gonna sell, even for a cheap price, then you bloody well better be ready to live up to the challenge of the platform. Especially if you carry such storied history with you. Which Deus Ex certainly does, and The Fall is just one gigantic stumble for the franchise. This thing's supposed to be episodic in content. Ideally hope that if another part comes out, they actually decide to just make it a standalone for Deus Ex Human Revolution, but let's be realistic, it's not gonna happen. This is a cheaper game to make, throw it in the Unity engine. Get half of Eidos Montreal and some random no-name company to make it. Toss the Deus Ex name on it, and everyone will be fine with it, right? Wrong. Don't even bother. It's a waste of your time, it was a waste of mine, and I have no interest in playing any more of it. Lest it sully the memory of the previous games. Well, at least this is an excuse for me to reinstall Deus Ex Game of the Year Edition and get that new, I believe a new revision mod or whatever it is they're calling it. Yeah, I should do a feature on that. Remind people exactly what the true history of this franchise really is. Bugger this thing. Good lord. Good lord. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a... That's the piece of cover you went into, really. Wow. Taking a look at Deus Ex The Fall, which is goddamn awful, and you shouldn't even consider playing it under any circumstances. Terrible port. And more to the point, even if it was a good port from mobile, all of the design decisions that were taken to make it run on a mobile device condemned this damn thing from birth. There really wasn't any chance of this being any good, was there? No, and that's the most depressing thing of all. And I suppose those of us that held out just a little bit of hope, had a little bit of optimism, once again, get told soundly that that is a terrible idea. And we shouldn't be doing that anymore. I'll see you next time.